You close the door. You lock it, check your pockets for your keys, and walk down the steps toward your car. It is exactly 8 in the morning, and to you, the day is just unfolding in its perfectly predictable human rhythm. You've got a standard 8-hour shift ahead, a quick stop at the grocery store, and maybe a bit of evening traffic. Just a completely ordinary day. But inside the room you just left behind, sitting on a wooden perch, a little creature weighing less than a single slice of bread is staring at the blank space where you used to be. The apartment is suddenly completely motionless. The only sound left is the rhythmic, mechanical click of a wall clock ticking away the seconds. To you, that clock represents a standard, manageable afternoon. But on the other side of that drywall, inside the hyper-accelerated mind of your Budgie, the rules of time have just completely shattered. You think you've just left them alone for a few hours, but deep within their brain, a terrifying transformation has begun. In their reality, you haven't just stepped out for the day. You've been gone for an eternity. See, when we look at our pets, we naturally view them through our own sensory experiences. We just assume that a minute to us is a minute to them, that a quiet room is a peaceful sanctuary, and that time flows in this smooth, universal river for every living thing. But honestly, that is the first and most significant illusion of our homes. Around you right now, different animals are experiencing the passing of the day at completely different speeds. Like, if you were to sit completely still in your living room, your perception of time is dictated by the slow, steady firing of your primate brain. But a bird? A bird operates on an entirely different evolutionary timeline. Their life is lived in a state of constant, high-definition hyperspeed. What looks like an ordinary, slow afternoon to a human eye is, to a bird, a dizzying, fast-forward blur of sensory data. So when the apartment goes completely quiet after you leave, they don't just rest and watch the hours pass by. They register every single fraction of a second with an intensity that our minds are physically incapable of even understanding. To really see this hidden layer of reality, we have to look at the actual science of how they process the world visually. There's a concept called flicker fusion frequency. Think of your eyes like a camera taking a rapid series of snapshots every second, which your brain then stitches together into a seamless movie. For us, that camera takes about 60 snapshots per second. Anything faster just blurs into smooth, continuous movement. It's the exact reason a television screen looks like a fluid image to you instead of a rapid succession of flashing still photos. But here's what most people don't realize. If a Budgie were to sit down right next to you and watch that exact same TV screen, they wouldn't see a movie at all. They would see a stuttering, strobe-lit nightmare of individual frames flashing on and off with long gaps of darkness in between. This is because their visual cortex processes information at over 150 snapshots per second. They literally see the spaces between the moments. It's like their entire world is filmed in extreme slow motion. And this fast-paced processing means an avian brain is constantly drinking in vastly more information per second than a human brain ever could. Their internal metabolic engine is running at a scorching pace, honestly, with a heart beating up to 10 times faster than yours. Their perception of time stretches out dramatically. So when you walk out of the house for a quick, standard 5-minute errand to drop off a package, your bird's brain is running so fast that those 5 minutes do not feel like 5 minutes at all. The silence just stretches. The lack of movement in the room becomes this prolonged, agonizing pause in the script of their day. Inside their mind, your brief absence expands, transforming a short delay into what feels like a days-long abandonment. They are effectively trapped in a high-speed time loop where every single tick of the wall clock is magnified, and it creates this profound neurological strain that begins the exact millisecond your footsteps fade down the hallway. As the morning deepens, this high-speed processing engine begins to take a massive psychological toll on an isolated bird. See, in the wild, a Budgie's brain is designed to constantly analyze a fast-moving environment. They are native to the vast, dangerous grasslands of the Australian interior, flying in massive nomadic flocks of thousands of individuals. In that world, every millisecond matters. A split-second delay in noticing a predator means death. Because of that, their brains are hardwired to be in a state of continuous, hyper-vigilant scanning. It's a survival mechanism. But when you leave them all alone in a suburban bedroom, that scanning mechanism doesn't simply turn off. It runs at full capacity, completely uncoupled from its natural purpose. The bird just sits on their highest perch, eyes wide and unblinking, processing the empty room in high-definition slow motion. They watch the microscopic dust motes drift through the air. They listen to the tiny metallic creaks of the house cooling down. And without the stabilizing presence of their flockmate, which is you, this constant high-speed monitoring quickly turns into an exhausting loop of pure psychological fatigue. And all of this exhaustion is just compounded by the slow, agonizing way the natural light moves across the floor. See, to a prey animal, the sun passing by isn't just some beautiful background feature. It's a ticking survival clock. As those shafts of light shift across the rug from the window, your bird is tracking them with absolute precision. In the wild, the angle of the sun dictates everything: when to fly, when to forage, and exactly when nocturnal predators are going to start hunting. But inside a closed apartment, watching that light creep across the furniture over the course of hours feels like watching a whole geological epoch change. Because they perceive time so much faster, the slow slide of a shadow across a wall feels like an eternity of being totally exposed. They are fully aware that the day is slipping away, that they are completely isolated, and that they're trapped in this stationary space while their internal evolutionary code is screaming at them to move, to seek cover, and to find the rest of their group before the light fails completely. And then comes the escalation. There is an exact, invisible threshold in every single daily absence where a routine separation crosses over into a state of genuine psychological trauma. For the first few hours, your budgie can usually manage the stress by just anchoring themselves to your established habit loops. They know the sounds of the morning. They can tolerate the quiet as long as their energy reserves hold out. But as the afternoon rolls in and the word count of their silent day reaches a critical mass, their hormonal balance shifts drastically. The steady baseline of dopamine and serotonin that is naturally maintained by social interaction just completely bottoms out. Cortisol, the primary stress hormone, floods their tiny system. The bird might start doing these weird repetitive behaviors, like pacing back and forth along a single wire of the cage or clicking their beak rhythmically against a toy. This isn't play. This is a desperate attempt to self-soothe as their hyperspeed brain begins to short-circuit under the sheer weight of prolonged, unnatural isolation. Which brings us to the peak realization of the entire experience, the moment you finally return home. When you open the front door at 5 in the evening, you walk in feeling tired from a long day, just looking forward to seeing your pet. You unlock the cage, and your budgie immediately erupts into this frantic, chaotic display of head bobbing, wing flaring, and high-pitched chattering. Most owners look at this and smile, thinking, "Look how happy they are to see me." But the science behind that exact moment reveals something much more intense and almost overwhelming. That explosion of energy isn't just joy, it is a violent, massive neurological overload. Your sudden re-entry into the room causes an immediate crash in their cortisol levels and a catastrophic spike in adrenaline and dopamine. Their hyperspeed brain, which has been starving for sensory data for what felt like days, is suddenly hit with a massive wave of information. Their heart rate spikes to dangerous levels. They are experiencing a physical and emotional shockwave as their reality instantly fractures back into a safe, domestic space. They aren't just greeting you. They are recovering from a long psychological ordeal. As the frantic chattering slowly subsides, a quiet aftermath settles over the room. Your bird climbs onto your shoulder, buries their beak into your collarbone, and lets out a long, soft sigh as their feathers puff out into a relaxed little sphere. The intense, slow-motion vigilance of the day finally drains away, leaving them completely exhausted. When you sit down on the couch and look at this tiny creature resting against your skin, the true cost of our daily routines becomes undeniable. We think of our homes as safe havens, and we think of our pets as simple companions that fit neatly into the margins of our busy lives. But to them, we are the literal sun around which their entire universe rotates. Every single hour we spend away running errands, working, or socializing is a massive chunk of their perceived lifespan spent waiting in a state of high-alert isolation. They are paying for our modern conveniences with the currency of their own distorted time. If we look back at the opening scene of the morning, the entire picture looks completely different now. You are no longer just a person walking out the door to go to work. You are a biological regulator stepping away from a delicate, high-speed ecosystem. The closing of that door isn't a neutral pause. It is the launch of an intense, survival-driven countdown that tests the absolute limits of a 30-gram animal's mind. The apartment isn't just an empty apartment anymore. It is a slow-motion landscape where shadows crawl like glaciers and silence sounds like a threat. Understanding this doesn't mean we can never leave our homes, but it changes the weight of the moment we return. It transforms an ordinary pet relationship into a profound, sacred responsibility. Have you ever noticed your bird behaving differently or holding on to a strange energy for a few minutes right after you walk back into the house? Let me know what your bird does in the comments below.